Okay, today we're going to learn about something called the reduction formula, and we're going to, in trigonometry. And what I'm going to do is show you about this unit circle here. Everything flows from this unit circle, or you can figure out lots by it. You know, a unit circle means the radius is 1. So the distance from the center to the outside is 1. So if I go from here to here, the coordinate would be 1 and 0 because I went 1 to the right. If I go 1 up, the x-coordinate would be 0, and I went 1 up, so it's 1. Over here, I'd go 1 to the left, it'd be negative 1, and the y-coordinate would be 0. And here I'd have x is 0, and I would go down 1, and I'd have negative 1. Okay, those are the places where the circle would touch 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270 degrees. That's the way angles work. You go counterclockwise like this. This 0 is the same as 360 going around a circle like that. Now, what if I stopped here at some angle, just say some acute angle somewhere, and it could be 45, it could be 50, whatever. But if I stopped here and I went straight down and straight across, I'd create a right triangle. And if I have a right triangle with an angle, I can use SOHCAHTOA to learn about the trig functions. The first one I want you to think about is cosine. Well, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Well, look at this triangle here. Adjacent over the hypotenuse of 1. But anything divided by 1 is just itself. So whatever this green value is here, that's the x value. That must be the cosine. In fact, that's what it works out. On the unit circle, the x value is the cosine of the angle. And the sine is the blue, the opposite over the hypotenuse. That would be y, and y divided by 1 would just give you y. So that's what's kind of special about a unit circle. In the unit circle, the x value is cosine, and the y value is sine. Well, if that's true, let's take the x value of cosine. The cosine of 0 degrees would be 1. You could try that on your calculator, but it really is 1. The cosine of 0 degrees is 1. The cosine of 90 degrees is 0. The cosine of 180 degrees is minus 1. I'll figure out, we can see it's the x value. And the cosine of 270 degrees is 0. Well, that's if we're in this quadrant. What if we moved over here and I made exactly the same size triangle with exactly the same angle? Well, I'd have exactly the same triangle over here, except that it'd be on the left. But this y value here would still be the sine, and this x value, the green part, would still be the cosine. The thing that would be special that you should be able to see, in this quadrant, because I went up, the sign would be positive for anything in this second quadrant. Everything is positive over in the first quadrant, but the sign is positive in the second quadrant. And then let's take a look right here. If we go to the third quadrant, oh, and I must say, we forgot something back here. Right here, if you go to the left, this part is negative. So that makes a cosine is the x value. And since the x value is negative, the cosine would be negative in this quadrant. Cosine would be negative, but sine would be positive. And we know what tangent is. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So it'd be positive over a negative number. That would make this quadrant tangent to be negative. Let's go to the next quadrant. Okay, here. Here, you go to the left, x is negative. You go down, y is negative. Well, we've got x and y is negative, so that means cosine and sine are both negative. But a negative opposite over adjacent, tangent would be positive. So in this quadrant, tangent is positive. Up here, it's sine that's positive. Here, just tangent is positive. Let's look at this last quadrant. Well, the x is positive, but the y is negative. So the sine is negative, but the cosine is positive. So in this quadrant, cosine is positive. Well, now we've just gone through it, And you end up and you memorize this thing, or just all you have to do is memorize 4 letters. All students take calculus. That's how I learned this thing. But everything, sine and cosine, is positive between 0 and 90. Just sine is positive between 90 and 180. Just tangent is positive between 180 and 270. And only cosine is positive between 270 and 360. You need to know this to do the next section. And we'll pick it up then.